So, hey guys, it has been a long week, a good week, but it was long, a little bit stressful. As some of you know, my son was undergoing some medical treatments, some scanning and monitoring for his migraines. Not going to get into too much details about that right now, maybe some other time, mostly because I don't usually talk in detail about my kids on social media. I don't believe that there is a place for that on social media, for minors to have their business out there. Number two, it's not really my story to tell. Yes, it's my son, and but it's really not my story to tell. And is so awesome. He wants to mainly have me tell the story eventually because he thinks that if there are other kids or people that can benefit from the information that we found out during this time, then he wants to help, and that's, I don't know where he gets that from. Eventually, I will share, but he was having some migraines and things like that. We found the source, and I think, I hope, I pray that we took care of it. But this week has been a very enlightening week. So let me tell you about that. Hey guys, I'm Ashley, and welcome back to Don't Say Nothing. So my mama comes into town whenever we have to we go to Houston, or we're going back and forth from Houston because that's where his specialists are located at those campuses. And she was coming into town and helping me and everything, and it was very helpful with the kids, but it was also very helpful when she would come for my morale. She and I, as you know, if you've watched previous episodes of the show, we are thick as thieves. We are so close, and I don't get to spend as much time with her as I used to, obviously, but also I don't get to spend as much time with her as I want to, obviously, because she's in Oklahoma and I'm here. And these past couple of years have been very trying for all of us, for the entire family, and for her, especially with my grandfather passing. We had a lot of conversations about this too, about her, having to heal. She's obviously, you still miss them. It just kind of takes on a different tone. You don't fully ever, get over grieving someone. I mean, they were together their whole lives from the time she was 15 to now, and she's 75. So they grew up together. You know, you don't ever just stop grieving something like that, but you learn to live with it in different types of ways. And she was going through that. And then simultaneously, I was going through my own things. And so, you know, it was it was a difficult couple of years. We got to have so many conversations that I haven't had with her ever, or that we haven't, just things we haven't talked about in such a long time. And it was the conversations that I got to have with her and the time that I got to spend with her finally after all of this was so healing. And I was thinking during these conversations, and I'll go into detail about them, but I was thinking that memories are actually destinations. If you truly think about that, like think about it, like a memory is a destination. When you think about the past and you think about things that have happened, it's like almost like you can transport there. So I was like, okay, how can I bridge the gap there scientifically with that type of explanation, and then a spiritual also like explanation, and how can I bridge those two, worlds around that thought, that hypothesis, essentially, that a memory is a destination. Because you can also think of things that haven't happened yet, like your future self, your higher self, and it's almost like you can instantly go there. We were sitting at the dinner table talking, and I was telling her about, some dreams that I've had recently, and she was telling me about some dreams that she had recently. Lots of them that she has, she'll see my pops, like he'll come to her in her dreams, and she's told me about conversations that they've had, and in one particular instance, like he hugged her and said, "I can hear you all the time. I can hear you." And just kind of turned and walked away, and before she could do anything else, she woke up. And then we talked more about dreams and kind of got into more detail about that, and I was like, "Remind me." I was like, "Because I've been telling stories," and I told her about "Don't say nothing," and I was like, "I've been telling stories and things, and I wanna make sure that I'm remembering things correctly, because all of these things have happened, and I feel like, I want to discuss them and detail them in a way where, people are like, 'Wow, that's really cool,' that really happened," or whatever. So we got to talking about, her mom, my great-grandmother, my grandma Stewart, talked about her previously as well. That was the episode where I was like, "I just would like to thank the people that saved my life." Talking about her dreams and her gifts, in seeing things in dreams and what she was able to do, and her I believe it was her older sister, was dying, and she visited her in the dream, and she was telling my mama was telling me, she recounted the whole thing, like, just exactly how it felt whenever my great-grandmother was telling us the story after it happened, that, um, they were little girls again, they were playing in the woods, and they were just having a great time, I mean, she, like, had a whole day with her, just spent the whole day, and when they were done playing, they walked to the river. My aunt my she was we called her Juggy. She jumped into the river and swam to the other side and said, "You have to stay there, it's not your time yet, but when it's your time, I'll come get you." And that next day, they woke up very early in the morning. They lived in Texas, and so she was like, "We have to get in the car, we have to go now." When she got to her bedside, she said, "I saw you in my dream." And she said, "Yeah, I had that same dream." And she had in complete detail of what they had done in the dream and how it went. And then she said, "And I knew you were coming and I waited for you." And then she passed. And it was like falling into it was like I wasn't even there in the moment that we were talking at the here at my dinner table. It was like I fell into exactly what we were talking about. It was like I was in that moment when I was that age, hearing that story for the first time, and it was like I was there in the different in my great-grandmother's living room with my mama, hearing that and talking about that. It was like I just kind of fell into that place in time. But, if you continue to think about it, memories being a destination, that same thing happened. We had not talked about this in years, decades, about the day that they came to pick me up from my mom's situation. And I was telling her the details of when that happened, and she was like, "Hmm," she's like, "I didn't know that happened." And she's like, "I just knew that she had been gone for, like, 3 days, and, she's like, "We wanted to come get you, and I didn't know this." She was like, "But your mom was calling us and telling us that she was home, and she was lying to us." She's like, "Finally, I just had this feeling that she was just messed up and that you were there alone." She's like, "So we came to get you." She's like, "We wanted to. Like, all those weekends that you'd come stay with us, we wanted you but you just can't go get someone's child, especially when they're lying to you and trying to say everything's fine, and you wanna believe that, but you have this hunch deep down." She's like, "We should have come and got you sooner." And we talked about all the details of that day. And something that I brought up after the fact was that I kinda told her, like, I was sorry. I know I was a child and I was only 7 years old, and what the hell could I have done about it? But now that I'm older and I'm realizing that, they had already raised their 2 kids and they were grown and out of the house, and then here I come. And I told her, I'm like, kind of sorry for that, because I know you guys were having a hard time, and you were going through things on your own as individuals and as a couple. I was like, and then here I come. I was like, and I don't know, what you guys wanted. And she stopped me before I could even get the whole word wanted out of my mouth. And she said, "No, we wanted you." I mean, just so with so much conviction, so genuine. She was just so, and she didn't miss a beat. She didn't even let me get the word out. And she's like, "No, we wanted you. We did." Like, we really did. Your papa wanted it, and I did, and she was like, there was no doubt, and she was like, when it was time to fight for custody, your mother wouldn't even show up. It was your papa really who wanted to go to court and make everything completely legal, so she could never, never, never have any chance of getting you again. So that was something that has been on my conscience, and kind of a guilt that I had, as a person, just with everything I said, just thinking about me being 7, and here I'm coming into this situation. And before that, it's not like we weren't close. We were, I'd always been close with my grandparents. I was spending every weekend with them up to a certain point before things got bad, and she didn't want them to know. That healed me on the spot. So many questions, and just things that I wanted to say about that point in time in our lives was instantly gone. Like, the guilt was gone, the questioning was gone, the should I, would I, could I's were gone. And she did that for me, and an instant weight was just gone. Like, that little girl, I was there. It was like I was with her in that moment where they finally got me, and I was with her in all of those times that I cried every single day, and we talked about that too. We talked about how she felt in those moments. She was like, it just made me hate her even more. She's like, I already was so mad at her, and she blamed herself a lot for the way my mom acted, and we had to say, like, no, I it's not your fault, and I think I was able to give that to her as well. But I was there. I was literally there with myself, feeling all of those feelings, and feeling the relief from the validation that I had just received in all of those moments. It's like something was just taken away. Not bad, like, it was a good taken away, like, it was just like, whew. It's hard to explain, but it really it really healed a part of that little girl instantly. Really did. We had other conversations about the story at my other great grandma's house. Um, and she told me that my grandma Ritter, the one that happened with the cousins, you know what I'm talking about. She's like, she never liked me. I don't know why. And I don't know why either, because she's the sweetest person in the world, and I don't know what she ever did. I don't know, but I mean, it explains so much. Like, the way that we were treated, the way we were kind of cast out and everything. And I don't know, those conversations that we had were just so healing, but it had been so long since I had allowed myself to essentially go back to, and that's what I'm doing right now. Is the point of telling these stories is kind of why, I want to bring myself back up to date, bring myself back up to speed, and be able to bridge the gap between my experiences, my education, and then also kind of bridge between science and spirituality, which is what I've been trying to do my whole entire life. There have been so many moments where I have, in doing you study, you research, you read, there are so many times in, like, growing up, that I had these experiences, and I wasn't really able to explain it in a rational way, or in a way that someone who isn't tapped into their gifts or their intuitions would understand it. But then I get these moments, these moments of synchronicity, validation, and, like, full circle, where I'll be reading something like a scientific research or something. It'll be like, it'll explain these phenomena that I would have as a kid, and it's so, like, okay, now, and there's new research coming out on things as well. So it's like, I don't like, I fucking love science. I love questioning all of the things. I love, again, bridging the gap between all of the things because, in my experience, everything is so connected and everything starts to make sense. Even if, like, you have a moment where you're like, okay, I have this thought, doesn't make sense right now, but I'm going to hold on to it because later it might make sense. That's also what happens in a lot of my readings. I'll tell people, I'm getting this message. It's very clear to me. It's not making sense to us right now, but hold on to it because it will later and it will be so cool because it'll be this great aha moment, possibly, So let's hold on to it for a later time. And 95% of the time it happens. It might not be right away, it might not be months later, it might be years later, but it will come and it will make sense. But back to memories and my thought that I had of memories being a destination. So in clinical neuroscience, they talk about the holographic brain. They talk about something called engrams, which is the physical traces of memories on the brain. So we have to look into what's called the holographic universe or the holographic universe theory. Science is actually, from what I've been recently seeing, is that the brain there science is seeing is that the brain doesn't actually store memories, it accesses them. To me, when I think of that, I think of like the brain as like a TV, and the memories aren't really stored like in the wires. It's almost like they're being broadcasted to your mind, to the brain, being kind of broadcast from a field, like an energetic field. So, in my theory of memories being a destination, when you're accessing the memories from that field, it's like you're tuning your neural frequency into a specific coordinate in a field. So, that could be like the Akashic field, where everything, every memory bank, every situation, everything is stored, or the 0 point field. And those two things I think should probably be episodes on their own because there's so much I could talk about. And also, when you think about quantum physics, you've got quantum entanglement and time. In those scientific theories, people like to talk shit about me whenever I mention anything quantum. You can kiss my ass. There is no past or future. Everything exists all at once. Based on that theory, the self you are now is the same as that 8-year-old self that was having those very real experiences and those very real memories. When I say that, again, memories are a destination, it's like a non-local consciousness. You're literally still entangled with every version of yourself, and no matter what stage in time, although time does not exist. So that's why the body keeping the score when there's a huge trauma or small, whatever the trauma, has everything to do with our health because it feels like it's still happening right now, right in this very moment. It can feel like that when you transport yourself there. If you don't transport yourself there through the memory, then you could, that's when you go day to day and you are okay. Like, for instance, for me, another little story is whenever, like, I'm great. I think about I'm going to end it on this. I am, and then I'll do another episode about this some other time. I am very much the type of person to handle traumatic situations with skillful neglect. When I am going through a trauma, when I am in a lot of pain, I let myself feel it. I go through it, but I have this very skillful way of handling it that I am able to neglect the pain and push toward the healing. And I don't realize until after I'm on the other side of it completely how much pain I was in. And that can be physically or mentally. So whenever, like, I think back to the times that I was giving birth, I've given birth 3 times to 3 children. And at the time, I'm in so much pain going into labor. And I did get epidurals with all 3 of them. I didn't realize how badly I was hurting until the epidural kicked in and I was in no pain anymore. And I was like, fuck, like I was that, wow, I was in so much pain. But I go to a place in my head, I guess, like almost outside of my body, handle it that way. And it was the same thing with my son this past week. I was really worried. I was incredibly anxious about the whole thing. The consent form that I had to sign is not language that's new to me. I've been in the health business for a very long time, but it took on a different meaning when it was my son. And I was, oh my God, I was very stressed, but I was handling it the same way I normally do. And then afterwards, after it was done, driving home with him, with the surgery being successful, I just kept taking these deep breaths because I mean, I was like, in the moment I was like tensed up and I guess wasn't breathing right or whatever. And when we got home, well, we went to a restaurant, so I didn't have to cook dinner that night. When we got to the restaurant, I was so relieved that I was like, oh my gosh. I just kept saying thank God over and over again. And then we get home and I crashed. Like, you could, if this house was on fire, you better drag me out by my toes because you were not waking me up. I was done. I was out. I laid down on the couch to let the dog out and I didn't even bring her back in before I fell asleep. That all being, that is why when I think back to those times and I'm like, oh my God, transport memories, a destination, I can feel that feeling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I get through that? What did I do? And it feels like it's happening now because on a quantum level, it is. And we'll go more into that on the next time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have any experience or anything that you would like to share, please do so. I love it when you guys interact. Okay, bye guys.